Everyone, the following video is meant to be another attempt to kind of wrap up my fucking involvement with these dumb shits in military and intelligence. It's not intelligence, we need another fucking word for it. Look, as is always, Taco does not stop. Taco is an ongoing project. The project does not stop. My involvement with military is something I'm trying very hard to break away from, because there's not a sect of society I have more displeasure working with and less trust for than the military. Actually, there is police. No, there's one after that, unintelligence community. But that's it. Please enjoy the following off-the-cuff briefing. The amount of money that you guys would have to pay me for this service is like, bro, come the fuck on. This is getting ridiculous. You guys need to show some fucking appreciation. You guys need to begin acting in a civil way when I talk about this military shit. And it's been the biggest, how do I put it? It has been a colossal and ongoing embarrassment how our government has behaved throughout this entire thing. So the following is a continuation of the briefing. It's off the cuff. This is a response to a request from a nudging. This is likely one of the last of these. Hopefully this is I can finish up my involvement with these dumb fucks and I can run off into the sunset. I'm trying to wrap this involvement with military up. Again, if there are people in military who want to formalize the relationship where it's just, hey Matt, we're interested in what you have to say, we like what you've done, we'd love to be able to have a non-toxic, collaborative relationship where we sit down and have conversations and work through problems. Like, you know, that's always been a fucking option. Of course, these people don't get that. Maroon. So paratroopers, that's strategically, paratroopers don't make a lot of sense in the modern day because it's very difficult to get them into location without the aircraft being blown up. Radar is too good now, and this is the frustration with all this army stuff, is that we have these people who are really fucking passionate about what they do. They're passionate about soldiering, but a lot of the roles which and of what soldiering is has so fundamentally changed in modern warfare that old ideas such as paratroopers don't really make sense. So the idea of commando as functioning similar to paratroopers is a good idea, but it's just a continuation of the same thing. There is going to be a whole lot of push from commando to maintain things how they are. People don't like change. And they don't, it's the way that these patriarchal hierarchical institutions function is sufficiently toxic that they can't change. So lowering the standard for commando entry is not going to, they're going to try and avoid that because they want it to feel as tough as the SAS. It's a silly idea. Just fucking make commando something similar to a paratrooper regiment. If you want to keep paratroopers around, if you want to keep and you want to adjust their mission and you want them to function like an army ranger regiment, that's totally appropriate. It's just very hard to use that capability in a useful way. Most of the time when we would use paratroopers, really, like historically, that was before we had really good helicopters. And since we've had helicopters and we can do mobile warfare that way, it just is such a much better way of doing it, because you get people exactly where you need them, and potentially you've got a person in the helicopter who then can provide air support. It's just a better fucking system of doing things, particularly with the Chinooks. I support, like, if there are going to be some holdouts of the paratrooper thing. Keeping paratrooper around as a form of training of soldiers to a higher standard is not a bad idea. Even if you wanted to create like special forces fold the Maroon Beret paratroopers and just say, hey, this is our soldier development program, bring that into special forces, and then have that as the baseline, have commando and then SAS as where people get selected from the Maroon Berets into that. That's not a bad way of doing it, right? Uh, and it's really good. That would actually be very effective because it maintains the culture of that lineage in those regiments. The idea of regiment and the cultural connotations, the battles which have been fought in their history is a very powerful thing, and it helps warfare to take place. But it's not a silly thing to like the preparations I've made, whatever chief of army or whatever's going on there, if they're trying to implement the intervention I've described, I wouldn't say it's silly just because there has been something similar to it in the past. I think that's actually an excellent thing. That's knowing that we've got this tradition and these soldiers is amazing, because the way regiments work is that they're constantly evolving, they're constantly being readapted. What I'm most interested in, though, is finding a way to look at potentially redoing job design in special forces and that kind of thing. I'm going to let someone else do that job. It's not like I've pretty much had enough of this gig. If army people want to have a conversation with me about these things, they're welcome to, but it needs to be in a formalized relationship where you sit down with me and you have a conversation. If you see a psychologist, it costs around $250 per hour. You've gotten thousands, hundreds of, like, you've gotten a shit ton of value from me, brother. Like, I'm a psychologist. I charge $250 an hour is my hourly rate. You're dealing with someone who has a very, very deep scientific knowledge. Well, I wouldn't say exceedingly deep, but there aren't a lot of people who are capable of getting to where I'm at. All right. And because of this, there's a price for the service. Either way, my interest is in the well-being of people and human flourishing, having an effective, and also to make sure that my country maintains its footing and sovereignty. That's the big one. I'm trying to avoid interacting with that sphere of intelligence and military, because the more I avoid that, the less chance there is for us to have a conflict. The reason why there's been conflict is because you gentlemen don't, you're not gentlemen, you're often deplorable shits, if I'm honest. But we need to have peace. Let's have peace. Let's find a way that we can live in the world without conflict, and should be what we aspire to. It shouldn't be us aspiring to violence. There is something which I need to note, which is something which needs to be passed on. We need to figure out how to do procurement a shit ton better in Australia. And if I were to keep working on the project, that's what I would work on next. I would like to delegate that to someone who's a defense economist. But my view is that the nature of these institutions is that maybe the people who do the procurement should not be the generals. Okay? I feel like generals should really be running things. And of course, looking at grand strategy. But when we start looking at the procurement of weapon systems, let's look at weapon systems as classes of weapon system. And let's go, okay, we need something to be able to engage the enemy at this range, and that's that kind of unit. And then we go, well, what can we fill out to fulfill that capability? With this, we need to find a way to get the defense industrial complex to chill the fuck out and stop adjusting. And this sounds strange, seeing as I identify as private sector, but remember my values and how I behave. Remember and understand that I'm a person we need people who are attracted to the private sector, because they're going to be doing like, not everyone's culturally compatible with the government or military. There are billions of people in the world. There's so many different personalities. I've made a very patriotic contribution here. Give me a pat on the back. But with these weapon systems, it may be better if we completely delegated that to something like a defense university, okay, or like a department at ANU or something like this. The reason being is that we want to find a way to stop fucking Lockheed Martin and Boeing from defining what shit we buy. And the revolving door that we have between government and them is a serious problem, particularly with generals. But ultimately, I think we should get most of our procurement, as things stand, from either the South Koreans, particularly for things like ships. Stop fucking building ships in Australia. We can't do it. We do a shit job of it every time. So, yep. Get our ships and that shit. You can get great missiles. You can get great everything from the South Koreans. They've got an amazing defense industrial complex. Let them have the burden of the military industrial complex and those fuckers and those corrupt fuckers fucking with their military. South Korea is useful as a country which is pinned in a state of constant war for a place for us to source great military technology. The other place is Europe. The only thing which is difficult to acquire defense-wise are good attack helicopters. But attack helicopters like, an Apache, okay, so much better than, a fucking Tiger. But when we start dealing with American companies, we lose our sovereignty. If we deal with European countries, we have so much more in common politically as middle powers, and it means that we are going to have more sustainability for our procurement. Now with this, there's another thing that we need to tack onto that. There are going to be models of procurement which haven't been developed yet. Remember that everything is tacked onto the past and history, and transitioning or designing a better system is certainly possible, but doing so will form conflict with the past. Now, what we can do there is that what would be amazing is if we could have like open source Tomahawk missiles. Like, imagine if we were able to work with the Europeans and we were able, and it, like, not in some bullshit sort of pseudo cooperative way, which was what happened with the F-35, where Australia made like the fucking tail fin or something. Fuck that shit. I mean, we find a way to design and manufacture both all the components to manufacture it, and both the equipment used to manufacture the missiles and the design of the missiles is something which is shared between all of the middle powers. And if we were able to do that, that allows us to have such a greater degree of sovereignty. And if we can find ways of doing that and having a competitive way to develop good military tech where it's not just cooperation for the sake of cooperation, like the International Space Station, but something where we actually get, good increases in productivity and increases in sovereignty, and we get a overall net benefit because there isn't the profit motive which occurs when you deal with Lockheed Martin or Boeing. We're all going to be in a much better place. Now, when I talk about these things, remember that I live in a fucking homeless shelter, and remember the degree of value I have provided you. Make sure I end up with my fucking lunch, guys, because you guys have gotten a lot out of this. Have a good day.